Is everybody ready to get back to business? We're running about 95 minutes late. I'm sure everybody's prepared tonight. We've got the Black Tie Gala for Stage 89. Tomorrow, don't forget the 5 a.m. 5K, Stage 89 5K. Everybody's ready? So before all of that, let's get moving with these guys. So back in 1987 or so, when we started this in 88, the Walt Disney Company had become very friendly, as we know, with George Lucas and Spielberg, and we did Captain EO, and we did the Indiana Jones ride. And they wanted a big stunt show for the Disney-MGM Studios, and they had a couple ideas. One was Mad Max, as I understand it, which probably would have been pretty cool. The other one was, where's my notes here? James Bond, that's right. James Bond would have been cool. But they had just heard that there was going to be a sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. And they thought, well, you know, this might be the way to go because this is going to have more life to it potentially. And so they decided on Indiana Jones. And Chris, why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, we were very fortunate to be working, of course, with George Lucas in that regard. And in talking about the stunts, George said, well, you've got to talk to Glenn Randall. He's my stunt coordinator, and he ended up doing like not all the Indiana Jones films now, because I doubt he did the last one, but I could be wrong. He may have. Apologies, Glenn, if you did. So somehow I got elected to hop on a plane and fly to Charlotte, North Carolina, and go meet with Glenn and his lovely wife and talk about what a great project this would be and how much fun it would be. And he was like, well, if George wants me to do it, then I'll do it. Okay, you're in. That's good. So then we came back and we started talking about all the different stunts that you could do, and then that had to get woven together into a story. And I know you guys are all familiar with this attraction, and what I wanted to do was show you a couple things just to refresh your memory about challenges that we had, and then how we got there. Oh, hi, Mike.
Sorry.
Our radio voice has appeared. All right, so yeah, if you want to roll the first video, we'll dive into that. Shortly.
We're now 98 minutes late.
Oh, there we go. Oh, so we missed, all right. Well, hey, we missed the opening bits. That's okay. And then the infamous rolling ball from Indiana Jones.
You've got steam starts rising out of the set, and then just shortly after that, his whole face just explodes. Not quite like this. And this big ball comes rolling out here. At this point, this is already sunk down, and Indiana Jones turns and runs away from the ball.
And of course, we had to do that a little bit larger, and Philip's initial drawing was very responsibly done.
My concept,
shaft coming through the back
with Bob McDonald, was to just do it like it really is, a real live ball. There's nothing simpler, there's nothing easier, just no maintenance problems, works every time. Gravity still works all around the Earth, even in Florida. The Indiana Jones action adventure is full of all sorts of dramatic stunts and pyro effects and gas fire explosions and other dramatic show action equipment.
So that's what happened. So yeah, Philip's initial concept sketch was of a ball on a stick basically coming through the back of the set and spinning along. A responsible designer saying, hey, here's a way you could actually do this. I'm not crazy for suggesting it. And I'm like, no, that doesn't roll like real gravity. You have to program it. That's a royal pain. So let's just do it with a real ball. Only problem is this thing is gigantic, and that'd be massively heavy and dangerous. So what it basically is a large soccer ball. It's an interior bladder that is just like literally like hexagonal soccer patterns that are sewn together, rubber, and then inflated to a massive, I think it was 6 PSI. Yeah. And then to demonstrate the safety of this, we laid on the ground and said, roll it over me. So it's about 400 pounds. With the exterior, there's an interior bladder, then the exterior is coated with textured latex so that we could get the rock look that we want and then paint it, of course. So, and they just roll it over. So it's low pressure. It doesn't really hurt when it does that, rolls over you. I know personally. At any rate, one of those things where, oh, sure, the engineer says it's safe, but if he won't do it, I'm not doing it. It's like, oh, yeah, I get it. So there were lots of other challenges on this. As you may have seen at the beginning, certainly I'm sure you all recall, there is a truck that flips over in this. It's another instance where I got called up to the executive offices, and Orlando Ferrante said, what is this crap I hear about? You want to flip over a truck every single show in this damn thing? I was like, yeah, I think it's going to work. I got a really cool way to do that. And he just started laughing and goes, only you would come up with this crap. I go, it's going to be fun. It'll be great. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So, and we did. But anyway, at that time, as I'd mentioned earlier in these series of lectures, it's the project just was very, very tough. There was a lot of things being added all the time as we expanded. This particular project came on late in the game, and we didn't actually make opening day, as I'm sure you know, but very close to that, a couple months. And so it was getting really intense. There was a lot going on, and I was really trying to get some more help. And for this particular attraction, with all the stunt equipment, live fire, gas fire, even though we're outdoors, it's still dangerous, and other engineered systems, moving a massive Mayan temple set. We'd done some initial concepts and layouts and whatnot, but I went back basically at WDI and said, look, I don't need a new young engineer. I need somebody who really knows what the hell they're doing. In fact, I need Frank. So I got Frank. So we brought him in and basically said, okay, you got this one. I'm going to deal with the whole rest of the park. And so obviously checked in frequently and anything else that we need. We did add some additional people as time went on for more support, but a very complicated show. And I saw it 2-3 days ago on Thursday, whatever that is. And it still looks great. And very proud of what we put together running 35 years later. Unbelievable. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to you, and you can take people through the show.
I should say that when we designed this, we were told it was 5 years maximum, you know. It's now 35 years.
Well, that was in the spec, 5-year life.
Right,
yeah.
right. So it was engineered, you know, based on that, but it's still going with a lot of rehabs, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah.
But, oh, yeah, okay. Anyhow, I was not working at WDI when this first started, so I got called in by Bob Weiss, and this was a brand new idea at the time, and Glenn Randall was already on board, and so we sat down, but the movie, you know, was really important, and the relationship with Lucas was really important, so we knew that we had to do something quite spectacular, and what was coming out of Chris's mouth and was already, you know, pretty extraordinary. So when I think pretty quickly the whole the configuration for the show worked out. Within a month we knew exactly what we were going to be doing, or trying to do at least, you know. But we had 10 months from the start to opening day, and you know, that's a real challenge because there's a lot of really extraordinary kind of things with live actors and fire and big moving machinery, and this is something that we had never done before. Fortunately, Nancy G. Bugman was here, and she had been working at Walt Disney World, so she was an enormous help sort of getting everything done, you know. And Rod was looking after the money and the contracts, which were really odd. I mean, really, because there wasn't anybody at Disney that wanted to do any of this stuff, right? I mean, everybody was busy, you know. So when we went out and said, we're going to do this, they said, well, you know, who is going to do it? And so it turned out to be all outside people, you know, even the designers.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I was sharing a big cubicle at the time with George Head, who we spoke about, who sadly passed away about 1.5 years ago and was my mentor and who brought me into Imagineering. And suddenly, one day, he said, this is Philip Vaughan. And Philip apparently was moving in with us. So we had 3 of us in one big cubicle.
It's true.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there were lots. It's like 40 different vendors.
Yeah, there was about 40 when you added the fire and the audio and all that.
Right.
I had 24.
Yeah, so there is craziness. But you don't just go down the street. As I mentioned before, we didn't have the in-house resources to do this. The organization was still, although we were regrowing, we were nowhere like we were originally for Epcot and TDL. So the whole concept, and this was, leading up to the Disney decade, as Michael was calling it, and I was like, we have got to network other resources. So we went to Broadway, we went to the specialty car industry, we went to all the special effects and film and all these different places. The group that did the ball, again, was a film effects company, the pyro and all of the stuff that was done down there. The flipping truck was done again by Triad. And the punji sticks, just a weird connection story here, was actually done by a group called Apogee Effects, run by Dean Sheritz, who was an ex-Disney guy that we knew. And his shop was set up at a building that was Apogee. And for those of you who know history would know that Apogee was was set up in the space where John Dykstra had maintained his work after he split from George Lucas when they did Star Wars. So Star Wars was done on Valjean Avenue in Van Nuys in a little warehouse. And when that was done, George basically moved Industrial Light and Magic up north and left John Dykstra there. He stayed in that building. That's the building where Apogee was there. So when you walked into Apogee to talk about punji sticks, there's little X-Wing fighters and things, because that's where all that motion was done. That's where all the little models and explosions were done, was all in that same building. And I'm like, well, that's kind of a nice little tight circle back to George Lucas and how this all working together. But anyway, I didn't want to forget that, sorry.
So we're going to go through the slides now. So this is the entrance, which is still there now, I think. Next slide.
Click the slide, please.
Well.
While we're waiting,
Really nice sign.
there were a couple interesting, non-obvious things about this. The one is that it had to, like we're talking about the grass and Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The Mayan temple, well, the whole thing, but the Mayan temple is 200 feet long, 30 feet high, and has to take 120 mile an hour wind. So the structural load on that to take, so like a big sail. And so, we had to design it to take this wind. So that was tricky. The other thing too is because of all the fire, every square foot of that deck had to take the load of a fire truck. So because stuff could catch on fire, so all the pits that lift up and the turntables and all the stuff underneath had to be able to support a fire truck, which wasn't easy.
It froze on it, just so you know. It froze on it, we're working on it.
Okay.
I think he's working on it. Just
There we
Oh,
go. Yeah.
good, perfect.
Yeah, so here we have, this is an aerial, and at the bottom here, bottom right, is the Epic Stunt Theater, which was an already existing building when we, because of the fast track process that happened with the park, we had a building that had a couple of columns that stuck right out in the middle of the stage and were extremely inconvenient, actually, Next slide. Yeah. So this is the first scene with the Mayan temple. Next slide. Oh, we seem to have gone back here. Right.
Let me ask you a question, Phil. How did you come up with the story and exactly what the scenes would be and the setting for this?
Well, we started out with Tom Gillian, who's an illustrator who does a lot of work for Disney, but an outside guy. And he came in and did a sort of scene, a view of each of the three major scenes. And this was based on a script that you wrote, right?
Not the first one.
Yeah.
The first one. Yeah.
Anyhow, he had a script that he was working from. And then we had, I forget his name now, but yeah. Anyhow, we had a storyboard artist.
Gene Johnson.
Gene Johnson, yeah, and he was a real movie storyboard guy, and he ripped off in about 2 days the entire show in 60, 80 images. It was storyboards. They were just amazing, and that was the basic. From there, we engineered everything, but we stuck to basically that plan because we didn't have any time to do everything twice over, you know. Oh, yeah, next slide. Okay, here. So this is the beginning of the scene. Indy drops from the sky. Next slide. And then he runs along the ground, and these are the punji sticks. Frank is going to talk about some of the mechanical things we did to get these things done. Next slide. And then he runs up, next slide, and falls into this trap. And this trap was quite problematic initially. Next slide. And then he runs up and next to this plinth and with a bag of gold. And at that point, as soon as he pulls this off, the skull breaks open. Next slide. And the ball runs down. And next slide. And runs him over. And next slide. And then runs into the end of the scene. And then next slide. And then the scene is broken up and moved away. So Frank
they say cut, and you realize they were just filming
right.
a scene.
And the notion is, of course, that you're watching a show about how stunts are made for the movie, right?
Yeah, but you don't know that allegedly, you know, when you go in. So a few things about that. So the rope drop, you know, we're very worried about, you know, that had to be safe, right? It had to stop and not stop too hard. So we thought, well, we could do it this way, do it that way. And then Emmett Peter, who was, you know, passed away last year, he said, well, let's use a Space Mountain brake. And I thought, what a great idea. We know they work. So that's what stops them is a Space Mountain brake. The punji sticks, again, another safety thing, right? You saw in the initial video about how he has to dance around and jog to, you know, not hit all those punjies. And I think there's like 24 of them. And they have to come up 6 feet in 0.3 of a second. So they look dangerous. But, well, what happens if he trips or falls? Well, you can't have it go through him. That would be bad. So he'd never get to the golden idol and the show timing be all. So we had to have a breakaway system in it so that it would, you know, hit him, but it wouldn't hurt him a lot. So that was really tricky that it could accelerate itself and stop very quickly, but still be able to break away if it really needed to. Philip mentioned the fire pits. So we had that done by a company called Technifex, and they, you know, built it up. And they said, well, come on over, I want you to try it. So, okay. So I went over to their shop, and they had me stand on it. And it's two panels that flip out like this, and you fall down. So they said, okay, here we go. And so they pickled it, and the panels went out, hit the ends of the frame that it was in, and started coming back up.
Microphone. Yeah.
Oh, and they hit the bottom, started coming back up. In the meantime, I was going like this, and so they hit me in the arms. So yeah, I couldn't get out of that for a while. But we fixed it. I mean, that was the kind of stuff. I tried to do as much of the stunt stuff as I could, like Chris, before we let the stunt people do it, so we could, you know, fix it. So we fixed that so they come up and stop, or come down and stop. Let's see, the rolling ball you saw in Chris's video, you know, where initially we had a ramp and a rail set. Well, the real set couldn't be that long. So we had to get a system that would spin the ball up to the right speed and then throw it onto the track through the doors and not skid or bounce, right? It had to be like perfectly coordinated. So when we got the real set working, there was the mechanism that was like a big hand with a rubber wheel that spins it and then throws it onto the rail. So we wanted to make sure we had that right. So we only had the first cart. So we took a high reach and we parked the high reach at the end of the rail, at the end of the first cart, And Aidan Bradley, who was the designer, and I got in there, and I had my video camera, and we would shoot the thing, and I would video it, and it would come right at us, and it was coming right at us, and then of course the video goes crazy because we had to stop it with the basket, and that's how we tuned it so that it would come off nice, which it does. It does a really good job. And then, with this, you get the idea, okay, well, there's a couple of guys that push this thing off stage. That was actually the hardest thing we had to do, was getting these things off stage. So the big cart, the one on stage right, weighs about 80,000 pounds. It has to go around this tight corner, like Philip said, has to miss this great big post. And it goes uphill. So it's going around the corner, up a hill, and it's 80,000 pounds. And, of course, it was way overweight compared to what we thought it was going to be. So it was overstressed, and we had to beef it up, but not at any weight. So that was a real trick. So, and it's also automated guided. So, and you'll see some pictures of that in a minute. But before we got the automation to work, to just get itself off the stage, Aidan and I had to drive them off. So we became known as the Stone Temple Pilots.
But he'll be here all night.
Yeah. Okay, maybe next pictures.
slide, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see some pictures. So that's, go ahead.
Go, no, you could.
Okay, well, so this is Indy grabbing the golden idol. You can see how nice the sculpting was on that.
Yeah, this is all done by Lexington Scenery.
Yeah. Next picture.
Yeah.
And that's the ball. It gives you an idea of the scale of it, this 12-foot diameter. Next.
Wait, let's tell a quick story. Didn't the manufacturer of the ball go out of business or file bankruptcy while you were producing it?
Not the ball.
Not the ball. That piece.
Yeah, that was the company that made all
But
of
they
this.
did test this ball, I think, where was it made? In Eastern Europe somewhere, right?
Wow.
And they tested it. They sent us a videotape. They just threw it off the top of a building, and it bounced in the parking lot. And they said, look, it worked fine, right?
Yeah, I think it wound up going into town. Had a beer, came back. Next picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sort of the overall. Again, you can see it's 30 feet high and 200 feet long.
I should say that when this ball was rolling, it was actually completely silent, really, the ball. But we had speakers set in the set behind the rockwork, so the big grinding noise of a big stone ball rolling. And the sound was panned across the set to mimic the motion of the ball. So it really sounded as though the sound was coming from the ball. It was really amazing.
Yeah, it's very, very well done.
Were
Joe Harrington.
Fantastic sound design in the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, next. Okay, so this is the actual track and the skull rock.
Next.
So we're going to get some pictures as it's being assembled, sort of backwards.
Yeah.
This is the axemen. We didn't really talk about them, but you can see that again the detail in the panels. Next. And this is sort of the second and third cart splitting. And of course, we had this thing in the third cart, the last cart, which had to stop that 400-pound ball, too. So there was a shock absorber type system in there as well.
Kind of a giant catcher's mitt, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Next. Yeah. So this is the middle cart, number 2, much shorter than the third. Next one. So this gives you a little bit of the idea. Those are the wheels. They're about 5-foot diameter, solid rubber fill. And this is some of the rail and the structure. Next slide. This hanging ball.
Yeah. I should say, we by accident left this ball out in the sun one day, and there was this huge explosion. And we couldn't figure out what it was. And we went around, and the ball had got too hot, and the pressure had risen inside, and it just exploded. So we had to get the second ball.
Why is the ball hanging?
I think it was just out of the way while we're trying to
We're trying. Yeah, we're trying. We
But
didn't
it's
want
in the shade, you see. Right.
And you can see here, this is the track for the carts, and you'll see that a little more of that in a minute. Yeah, you see. Next slide. Okay, next slide. So this is some of the structure that was, before we put the scenery on it. Next slide. More of that. Again, you can kind of see the extent of it. The wheel there. Next slide. Again, putting this was all done in the parking lot at Imagineering.
Yeah.
Next slide. And again, this is the structure before we painted it.
Yeah, I should say the guy who designed this, Aidan Bradley, came out of rock and roll, so everything was very light, and it was done as a sort of like in the same way that you would design a touring stage, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually a pig pilot for Pink Floyd.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. Next slide. Another picture of the structure. This is the big knuckle that we had for each corner of the thing. Next slide. This guy's welding it up. Next slide. Okay, so this is the zipper device. This is the track. Remember I said it had to hold this thing down 120 mile an hour wind. So that's the track, and this contraption here was to peel up these steel plates, which are high-strength steel, because again, they had to support a fire truck, and it peeled them up and then laid them back down without making a whole lot of noise. And then the steel post in the middle, that's like an upside-down joystick, so that told it whether it steered it. It provided an input to the wheels that said, oh, okay, you need to go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left to stay centered on the track. Okay, next slide. That's another picture of it. Next slide. Okay, there you can see how it all kind of worked. That it peeled it up and then let it back down again. Next slide. Close up, the steel plates. Next slide. Okay.
Yeah, well, in this scene, in the second scene, we had a lot of guys doing acrobatics and tumbling and fighting on the set. And so those plates had to be completely flat so that these guys could run over it without tripping, Next slide. So the scene starts with these bad guys chasing Indy and Marion across the scene, and she trips the lift, the winch system. Next slide. And the winch lifted her up onto the scaffolding, and then these guys chased after her, after the two of them, and they swung off using this flagpole. Next slide. And then they grabbed this sway pole, which was a hydraulic mechanism, right? Landed them on the roof. Next slide. And then they climbed this ladder up onto yet another level, which is about 30 feet off the ground by this point, right? Next slide. And they push the ladder back. Next slide. And then nowadays they slide off down a cable, a sort of slide for life. They jump. What? They jump? Oh, is that?
Okay.
I haven't seen the show recently, so I'm going tomorrow. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Well, so it's more true to the storyboards than it was.
All right. Next slide. And then the bad guys grab Marion and throw her in the back of a practical truck. This is a real truck that drives onto the scene, and it drives off. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. And then the next thing you see is this truck, what appears to be the same truck, but is in fact a completely separate truck, but looks just the same, hurtling towards Indiana Jones, who's standing there with a gun. I believe they've taken the guns out of it now.
No, they have the guns. They just don't shoot anybody.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
Nobody
yeah,
dies.
right.
Yeah. They're all stormtroopers shooting. Yeah.
And then next slide. And then this is one of the concept sketches of when Chris was trying to work it out. But the truck flips literally. And next slide. And lands on its roof. And next slide. Oh, and bursts into flames.
And Marion magically appears from the smoke, the flames, and
unscathed, right?
Yeah. So some of the challenges we had there on that first winch gag, we were told, and I'd learned in school, that if you have a worm drive gearbox, it won't back drive, it won't go back down, so you don't need a brake. Well, first time we did it, went up, it came back down. So had to fix that. The flagpole, I don't know if we mentioned, but we had kind of we called it the playground, where the stunt gear was sort of mocked up, but good enough for the actors to practice on. Yeah, right. It was for training, and one of the times on that, because Marion is in front of Indy, they grab the rope and jump off, and they were a little too aggressive, and they kind of swung out, and poor Marion got squished in one of the other poles, the other scaffolding poles. So we had to tune that one down. The sway pole had to be the same diameter as all the other ones, so it didn't look funny, but we had to dampen it so it would fall slower than gravity. So big, there's big loads on it, big loads on the bearing and all that. And of course, it also had to have a mechanism to pull itself back up again. The ladder was really tricky because I misinterpreted what it had to do, because all I had was the storyboards. So I thought it just had to kind of go up and do this and then flop down. But as it turns out, it had to go back and forth a lot. So it had to kind of balance, but not look like it was balancing. So if it was too stiff, it would just kind of go up like this and it wouldn't look right. But if it was too sloppy, it would go over too far, and the guy couldn't get it back up again for the next go-round. So I was up and down and up and down and up and down, just adjusting everything, and then making sure that when it fell properly. And because it had to take the load horizontal, it was the ladder itself was pretty heavy. So, but we got it to work, and I think it came up pretty good. The flipping truck, of course, there was a physics issue about, you're shooting a truck with a machine gun bullet, and it flips over like that. The physics doesn't work, but it looks cool. It's the movie. So, and then one of the problems we had there is that the canvas on the back of the truck, of course, it gets flame. So it was actually a welding blanket, which is heavy enough. But then when it rained, of course, it sopped up all this water, and the truck wouldn't flip over. So we had to have extra copies of that to get it to work. Then after this scene, I don't know if we have it here, but we had to clear these buildings off too very quickly. Instead of making these automated guided vehicles, we pulled them off with tractors, but the only tractors we could get in time that would do the job were made by Ford. Now, GM was the big sponsor of Disney, and so we had to take all the Ford logos and decals off of the thing, but I think you'll see in one of these they're still blue. So
One other thing. One other thing on the tractors. We hadn't thought of who was going to drive the tractor. And fortunately, we were doing, this was a 3-shift day. Brock had mentioned earlier about the morning crew, the afternoon crew, the evening crew. It was the same in this, where the construction would work in the morning, The set people would work in the afternoon, and then we would rehearse at night. Well, came time to drive the tractors, we couldn't find someone that really knew how to operate a farm tractor. There was a construction employee that volunteered to train us on how to drive these tractors, because it wasn't just a simple operation of back and forth. These set pieces had to hit the exact mark, because again, because of hurricanes, they needed to be tied down. And it was the help of a construction worker that came from a farm, knew all about tractors, that helped us get the show open.
Yeah, I should say that Nancy was instrumental she was the coordinator on this project, but she actually kept the whole thing together. And she was very involved with all the actors, and we were training these actors, or we weren't, but Glenn Randall was, and the Walt Disney World operations were hiring these actors and training them while we were building this. And then we would use some of them to test some of the equipment, but most of the time, WDI people were doing the testing to make sure that it was safe, you know, because safety was a big issue in this thing. I mean, we definitely didn't want anybody hurt, and you're right in front of the 2,000 people, you know. So anyhow, it was quite an operation, and then at other times we needed some help from the central shops or from different people at Walt Disney World to help us modify pieces of equipment and stuff, and they were fantastic. And the fact that Nancy knew all these people, she could go and sweet talk them into coming out in the middle of the night, you know, and welding and stuff. So it was amazing.
Why don't we hear from Nancy for a minute? Do you want to share a story from your experience coordinating the longest running theme park attraction show in the world?
I do not.
There has to be one story.
Tell us something.
Think of something that they'd be interested in.
I don't mean to put her on the spot.
Please. Well, as the coordinator.
Closer.
Yeah, you have to close hold it up to your mouth.
Close your mouth. Like this.
Put it up to my mouth.
Yeah, right.
As the coordinator, I was responsible for everyone's devices, everyone's keys, everyone's schedule, everyone's meetings, and so on. So the activity level was the most compressed. I sort of have worked on only high compression projects, and so this one took the cake. And the liability issue was really interesting because there were many different levels of approval before they actually executed it. And I really enjoyed working with Glenn Randall Jr. He and Bob Yerkes was brought in for all the acrobatics. And Larry was the armorer. And I mean, he brought in specialists from the stunt community for every one of the categories of stunts that we had. And one of the most fun things I got to do was they taught me how to do high falls, how to rappel. I got to do a lot of really interesting stuff. Embarrassed, though, in high falls, I could never stop going oomph when I hit the bag. So I would never be good for an actual shoot, but...
Thank you.
Next slide. Yeah, well, next slide. This is your department here. Here's it.
Yes. So this is the truck flipping, and one of the way this truck works is it's very light. It's a cable drive with a shaft coming through into the building to attach to the cable, and then you'll see it better in the next picture, I think, two inflatable tubes that jacket this shaft so you don't really see a big slot and it doesn't give the gag away.
Yeah.
The next picture. Yeah, you can see it there. Yeah. So. Next picture.
Yeah, this was not something that we thought about initially, you know, but it sort of became clear once the set was built that there's a big gap there, you know, and it really gives it away.
Okay. Next picture. Okay, this is, you know, you can see, you know, why we needed that to be a welding blanket.
Yeah, right.
Next picture.
All the pyro for this, all the fire is the MAP gas or propane is offboard in tanks, and it's all coming from the ground. It's not actually on the vehicle at all. So it comes from the ground. So there's a grating that runs across there, and the flames all come up from beneath it. That's why it sort of hits all the way over and then bursts into flames on the backside. And then, of course, they douse the whole area with the fire extinguishers, and then Marion comes from the inside and threw that out through the fog, if you will.
Yeah, so everything on this slab had to be located prior to the slab is concrete, right? So it's poured, and Ron was out there sort of locating every piece of conduit, every gas pipe, every water pipe.
I got the nickname of Slab Boss.
Okay. Next picture. There you see some of where you know, what Philip was saying, where the flame came from. Next picture.
So this is the final scene for the next picture. Next slide. So Indy and Marion are hiding behind a berm, behind a rock here on the slab. This is after the scene 2 has been pulled out, and this airplane arrives out from behind. And the airplane, I should say, was designed by a guy called Dan Gluck, who's now passed away, unfortunately. But it was based on a flying wing that was developed right at the end of World War II. So it was based on a real plane, but it was sort of modified.
Sort of.
Yeah, right.
Next.
Yeah, and then the plane drives in, and one of the wheels is chocked, and it starts to spin around because the propellers are still going, and Indiana Jones comes out, and meanwhile Marion has climbed into the airplane, and this fight ensues here, the fist fight. Next. Yeah, and the plane hits the wing of the plane hits this fuel truck that sits right there, and fuel starts to build. It's water, in fact, but it looks like fuel. Next slide. And then the plane comes around, and the propeller eats the poor guy, the poor German that's trying to fight Indiana Jones. Next. It's not there? Well, yeah.
I haven't seen these storyboards in, I don't know, say 36 years, 37. But I'm kind of stunned having just seen the show and going like, wow, this is really tight and close to what it is even today after all the crap we've been through. But the mechanic, now they hit him over the head with a big giant wrench, pipe wrench, and take him out. But there was the blades for that, or actually they're breakaway aluminum with cast rubber on that. So if he actually gets hit by the blades, for instance, the trap door doesn't open and the blades keep coming and he gets hit by that. Again, as Frank so accurately put it, we don't want to really hurt him. So, but that was another one of the things where it's like, you stand in front of it. And it's like, oh, Jesus. But
I think we made Bob McDonald do it, right?
Exactly. I guess he built those. But yeah, and it did. They broke away, and it's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to let him see the pain.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's where the trap doors that Frank was talking about earlier, that's there, and the mechanic falls through that at the same time, throws smoke up at the same time that the blades combine, it drives right past him. But that, I'm sure you guys all remember that, but that's not there now. Now the mechanic's just hit over the head with a big wrench, flops down, and then they go back, and he tries to get Marion off the plane.
Yeah, and then there's this pool of fuel on the ground that starts to catch fire. Next slide. and then the fire gets just bigger and envelops the fuel truck and this ammo shed on the other end. Next slide. Oh, yeah. And then there's a huge explosion, and and that's the end of the show.
Well,
next slide. So this is the one of Tom Gilliam's renderings of the. This is the scene 3, and I should say that he did these 3 renderings of one of each scene in about 3 days, and basically this is what we built. Right? It was amazing how quickly they worked, those guys.
Yeah. And you see these are the 2 big columns that we had to work around.
Now, what'd you guys do when it rained? Because this is an interesting design where the audience is covered, part of the stage is covered, but part of the stage is not. So
They had the option of running less than a full show, and I think Mike can probably talk to that better than I can. But they could run partial shows. The Mayan temple was covered.
got it.
Just one other interesting thing while you're looking at that, because you notice the fire there. And as we'd mentioned before, this park was the first place that we did really large gas fire explosions. And the fire marshals were like, that fire's under the roof. We're like, yeah, so it's a metal roof. So we had to put thermocouples up there. We wired them in on the beams, on the structure, on the roof, and ran the fire explosion to see what the time signature for the temperature rise was at that point. So the flames go all the way up to the roof, and they pass right by there, and you can see it in the thermocouple where it's like, yeah, it goes up a few degrees, and then it stabilizes and comes down, and they were all fine with that. But it's one more of those things like, I hadn't actually thought about that, but we probably should check it before we burned it to the ground. So it all worked out fine. But there was the tanks for the slab ban are off to the side, and then the propane and everything, MAP gas, is all piped underneath and goes, and then there's the water's in a trough, and there is a tube that runs underneath that's perforated, and as you pump the air in, it leaks out along there, and that creates the gas that then ignites as it runs on around there. And again, we use propane is heavier than air, so it doesn't just go up. And it sits down, so you have lower explosive limit sensors and things to make sure it doesn't pool anywhere you don't want it and suddenly ignite. So anyway, just a little fire story.
That trough where the fuel leaks over to the oil fuel dumpsters, drums. The first effect basically just had slots, and the flames didn't look as random as they should. And we had a member on our team, Ralph Nielsen, and he decided that he was going to create something to make the effect look much better. He found a foundry, and he made these plates that were about this big, and they were perforated and molded and stylized. And they arrived early before the trough was actually finished, and they came in a giant crate. Somehow, well, I guess we opened the crate just to check the product that would fit in the trough that we built, and but it took a while before we actually installed them. Well, pieces started moving around, and I was finding them everywhere. So I scolded the team that we needed to stop playing with these, put them aside, make sure that someday I didn't walk into my office and find bookends made of these objects. Well, the team, as a going away present, took some of those plates and made me bookends.
Next slide.
Yeah, so this one, pardon? Yeah, so this one shows the pit as it was originally configured. We had a closed cannon. I don't know how long that lasted, where we would spit clothes out of there. The propellers were reverse pitched, so they would push the smoke forward and envelop the German. And then, of course, the trap door had to open. he had to get down, he had to push some buttons to make sure he was safe, and then it had to hurry up and close. And like I said, that had to support a fire truck. So they were really big, beefy things. So the whole thing was a little scary.
Yeah. Next slide. This is the smoke enveloping the big German guy as he's disappearing. Next slide. And this is the fire.
Flame trench that Ron was talking about.
Next slide. Yeah, there's some flame trench. You could see the fuel. This was, in fact, water, but yeah. Next slide. And that's the end of the scene. You can see that big mat that's on the ground. That was something that we discovered when the guys were tumbling on this concrete that really, it was rough on the poor old actors and the stuntmen. So we had to make this sort of concrete-colored mat that they pulled in for each scene, right? Yeah, for each show.
Yeah.
That's still there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They need that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Next slide. Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, okay. So this is just one of the engineers that worked for us, and all the valves and so on for the truck. Next slide. That's more about the truck and the pipe that gets, quote, hit by the wingtip. Next slide. More of the same. Next slide. Yeah, and this is a little turntable we had to make so that we could be sure that the plane would rotate exactly right and be exactly right, properly positioned relative to the fuel truck and not move around. So when they brought the plane in, they had to make sure that main landing gear wheel got on that turntable. Next slide. There it is again. Next slide. Or is that it?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys worked so hard. You had the storyboards, you had the story, you did the show, and somehow Mike West ends up in New York City, sitting in a hotel room, writing a script after all this happens. What the hell, Mike?
Well, that had nothing to do with this show. No, the first script, and what you saw was the main part of the show, obviously the great effects and everything, but we still had to have a script for a show. And the first script that was written by the guys from the film wrote a lot of like intimate moments for Indy and Marion, like it was a film script. And when you have a 2,200-seat amphitheater like these guys designed, it's a little hard to get those little tender moments unless you have people on camera. So we went in and we made some changes to it. But the big change came in. It didn't last long. But somebody had the idea that we wanted to get Broadway back involved. And we hired a Broadway director, I believe his name is Michael Montag, who wanted to change the attitude of the show. So I was sent up to New York. I was locked in the Marriott Marquis for a week, working on a brand new script for this show. And when we brought it back down to the cast, you got to realize the cast consisted of a lot of really great, talented, physical stunt people. And the idea of giving them banners to march across the stage and almost turn this into a musical really didn't go over that well with the cast. So I just kept pointing to Michael going, no, it was him. I wrote it, but it was him. But the script is important also, and what these guys, they did such amazing things. But remember, we brought live guests onto this slab every single show. You know, so the safety factor not only had to keep the actors safe, but we had to make sure that the guests were safe. And so the script is very important to make sure guests were there. And a lot of times the actors can tend to ad-lib on things, but they had to really stick to things to keep it safe for the guests. The one thing that they could ad-lib with a little bit, if you remember when they brought the guests up and they first introduced them, they're talking about the outfits that they've been put on. Well, the guests had sneakers. So this one AD that we had, he decided to ad-lib the line a little bit, and he looked at their sneakers and he said, well, you got the right ones, baby. The problem was, that particular show, the CEO of Coca-Cola was sitting in, yeah, you're getting the point here, was sitting in the audience with Bruce Laval, then vice president of the studios. And if you recall back early days, the line, you got the right one, baby, was a Pepsi-Cola marketing line. Well, you can imagine the amount of money is involved with Coca-Cola and sponsoring something. They almost lost the Coca-Cola sponsorship because of that one line when that guy gave that little ad lib. So we tried to reinforce the guys, say, please stick to this script. But the script was secondary to the marvelous work that these guys all produced. But
So I know Ron had to control this machine that was moving forward, and I know there were several problems with the contracts and things. Can you extrapolate a little bit?
The Mayan set piece, as you saw in the beginning of the show, was being manufactured by really actually a new startup company. And they were new into the business, and they thought things were going well because every time they had to write a check, there was still money in the bank account. What they didn't realize, they had two contracts going, ours and another show that they were doing. They were spending both our monies to pay for everything that was going on, and the other show completed months ahead of ours. They suddenly had a dry bank account. They tried to make up stories about all the change orders, which Disney was famous for, but we hadn't had time to do changes on this show. That was one positive aspect of an accelerated schedule. And we argued back and forth and decided we were not going to pay them. So we ended the contract with this company, and Nancy and I gathered together a crew from MAPO. MAPO is our manufacturing group that was also on our campus, and a bunch of trucks to pick up all the work that they had completed to date. And en route over to their factory, I get a phone call, and I'm informed that the owner of the company is in his office. He's been using drugs heavily all day, and he had a Uzi on his desk. Now, in today's world, when we know about all of the mass shootings that take place, I would have naturally stopped, turned the trucks around, and called the police to help us. This turned out to be a wonderful situation. The guy stayed in his office, kept taking his drugs, passed out. We got everything off his site, and we're still able to complete the manufacturing. I also want to kind of, someone said, I think it was Chris, we didn't open on time. I argue that point. All of our equipment, all of the training of the actors, everything was functioning on opening day and could have continued, but it was the script that had been, not Mike, Mike was brought on later, but the original script that wasn't really in our hands.
Right.
Was put together, and Michael didn't like it.
Right.
So that's when others were brought in, and they halted the show and redid it. But we achieved our goal.
Yeah.
This team worked night and day. This man risked limb, life and limb. He has a story of the set piece being set down on his leg. But anyway, I couldn't have been prouder of the group of people that I worked with. They put their heart and soul into this show, and 35 years, it's still
Still there. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.